Northern Illinois just picked up the biggest victory in the history of their football program, and they do it at number 5 Notre Dame. Yeah, just when you thought this college football season couldn't get any crazier.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Week 2 was wild, and Florida State didn't even play. Like, they couldn't lose. Like, Florida State could not lose in week 2, and yet we had other wild things happening in college football. Thank you so much to the Everydayers for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. On this episode of Locked On ACC, we will unfortunately have to talk about Kenton's Wolfpack getting boat raced by the Tennessee Volunteers. We're going to talk about, on the plus side, Cal went into Auburn and they made believers out of people around the country, ourselves included. Unfortunately, SMU lost a game that they were favored by more than a touchdown to win against BYU. But Kenton, the shocker that was 16-14, Northern Illinois, the Huskies, go into South Bend and beat the 5th ranked at the time Fighting Irish. And Kenton, do you know how much Notre Dame paid NIU to play that game in South Bend?
Isn't it allegedly $1.4 million?
Yes.
Ooh, and tell them one more thing. Bring me my money.
Yes. $1.4 million.
Yeah. Ooh. I can't imagine paying somebody that much to whoop on my head. That's crazy. That's crazy. I love Megan Thee Stallion a lot more than the next man, and I wouldn't pay her that much to beat me up. This is crazy. This is insane. And for those of you who are saying, oh, you don't talk about Notre Dame when they win, damn it, if we got to deal with their annoying behinds during every other season, we're going to deal with them right now, because this here is – I will be the first to admit that there is a preponderance of evidence that has made me form one singular opinion, and this is an opinion that we're going to touch on throughout the show. Never trust a one-year rental quarterback out the portal. Don't do it.
Unless it's Cam Ward.
Hey, listen. That was about to be the exception. You beat me to it.
Sorry.
It's not about Cam Ward. It's about if your quarterback can run. If your quarterback is not like an amazing, I don't mean a plus runner. I don't mean a good runner. He better be amazing with his legs, because I looked up and I realized who are the only one-year transfer quarterbacks that we thought of, and we're like, either they were there and balled out in year one and stayed and balled out in other years, or the 1 year they were there was magic. I think of Cam Newton, I think of Justin Fields, and so far, I think of Cam Ward. And I said, what do they all have in common besides that one thing? They can all run. They can all run. And that kind of helps out with that lack of timing and rhythm and all that, because if you are dynamic, not good, dynamic with your legs, you can figure it out. But I'm going to pass to you after this, Donno. Through 2 games, give me a guess on what you think Riley Leonard's completion percentage is at Notre Dame.
Oh, I don't know, 55?
61.3.
Okay, better than I thought.
Give me a guess on what you think his longest pass of the year is so
far. 42 yards.
20 yards. Oh. Give me a guess on how many touchdowns he has so far.
3.
0.
Oh.
Here we go. Hold on.
We're not done?
Last year, he threw 3 interceptions in very limited time because he was injured. The year before that, 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Give me a guess on how many interceptions he's thrown this year so far.
Well, knowing he threw, I don't even remember how many interceptions he threw. 2 interceptions, I think, in the NIU game.
So how many do you think he has on season?
3.
Incorrect. That's the only place you guessed worse than what he was. The 2 against NIU are the only ones he threw this season. But I
didn't throw any against Texas A&M. Wow.
Oh, he played. He just didn't do a ton. 20 of 32, 162 yards. Oh, I'm sorry, 18 of 30, 158, and no touchdowns, no interceptions. Objectively speaking, he has stunk it up.
He has
He
stunk
has
it up.
been god awful. But he ain't the only one of these 1 year rentals, because we've talked about DJU ad nauseum and how bad he's been.
Yeah.
He's looked worse than any of us could have imagined.
But to be fair, like you and I, to an extent, we predicted that DJ might struggle because we knew, like, Florida State fans were gassing this guy up. Like, we watched him so closely at Clemson. We watched him at Oregon State when a lot of people didn't. But you and I were very high on Riley Leonard. And, like, I guess there's still time to turn it around, but that was ghastly yesterday.
Absolutely. And the worst part about this is, again, I have ignored a preponderance of evidence, but they have convinced me. All of these first-year transfers have convinced me Notre Dame's defense did its job. Anytime you hold a team to 16 points,
right,
you are supposed to win that ball game convincingly. Right. Anytime you say, you know what, I got you. I'll tell you this much. I'll put you in these situations, and you tell me if that team should win the game or not. The opposing team's quarterback is barely over 50% passing and throws for 198 yards. Does that sound like a win to you?
It sounds like you should beat that team.
Okay. Their running back got 99 yards on 20 carries. Does that sound like a win to you?
Sounds like a win.
It sounds like a win to me as well.
Yeah.
Averaging 45 rushes, 190 yards. You allow 4.2 per carry. And mind you, one of those is a 28-yarder. So if you take that one out, you're looking at 44 carries for 172 yards. Baby, you got to win that ball game. Yeah. You have got to win that ball game. It is a shame. It's a sin and a travesty to see that Notre Dame was outplayed in South Bend by the Huskies.
And I watched the beginning of that game, Kenton, and first drive, Notre Dame looked perfect. Touchdown drive. They went 13 plays, 75 yards. Riley Leonard scored an 11-yard touchdown run, and you're thinking, wow, the Irish might put up a 40-burger. They might put up a 50-burger in this game. They only scored one touchdown the rest of the way. And here's the crazy thing about this, because that's one of the more notable, embarrassing losses you're going to see all season. When number 5 goes down at home to Northern Illinois. No disrespect to Northern Illinois, but I think we all know the situation. But despite that, so I was watching, by the way, Tyler Wojciak from Locked On Irish, who covers Notre Dame here on the network. He had an unbelievable post-game show. Like, it was so good. A lot of people have already watched it. I recommend you watch it on YouTube, listen to the audio version. But he said something right at the top of his show, and I understand this was a live post-game reaction. He was in the moment. A guy who supports Notre Dame, he was very down in that moment. But he started the show by saying, Notre Dame's season is over, was the way he started that show. But Kenton, here's the thing. Since that time, because he did this Saturday right after the game, the new Associated Press rankings have come out, and Notre Dame, they obviously fell. They had to fall, but they were ranked number 5 before that game. They fell to number 18 with 10 games still left to play. I think Notre Dame should have fallen out of the top 25 whatsoever. I think it's an insult to our intelligence that Northern Illinois, who not only beat Notre Dame, but they outplayed them. Like, this wasn't some crazy fluke where, they hit a couple of crazy trick plays, and NIU outplayed Notre Dame, and they got into the rankings, good for them, but number 25. So NIU, the team that just beat and outplayed Notre Dame on the road, is number 25, and they're 2-0. Notre Dame 1-1, just lost to NIU, is number 18. Make it make sense.
Well, nothing about that game made sense to me. I'm sorry. Shout out to the young man, Cade Haberman of Northern Illinois, for blocking not one, but 2 kicks.
Yeah.
Both kicks that were blocked by Cade, but I want to make one thing clear right now. It's amazing to me that we look back at that game and we say, well, NIU had an 80-something yarder. Well, they had a 45-yarder on the touchdown drive. Other than those drives where they had those big one-hitter quitters or they had those massive plays, they struggled so mightily. And to think, they only had 2 or 3 of them. You had to, as Notre Dame, have literally 3 to 4 effective drives where you got points. Let's be honest, 3. The 2 touchdowns One more field goal puts you over the hump.
That's right.
How you settle for a 60-yard field goal with a college kicker?
62 yards it was. Yeah.
Are you smoking dope, son? Are you on that stuff? Get off it. I don't care who you got back there. I don't care if Justin Tucker is your kicker. You don't give him 60 plus. I want to put you in the best position possible. If at all possible, I want to put you in an amazing position. And to see that was the position that their kicker was put in. Again, I was wrong about Riley Leonard. He has looked god-awful. Yeah. Listen, through 8 quarters of football, to not have thrown a single touchdown pass, it's astounding to me. It is astounding. It is disappointing. It is flabbergasting. I mean, it's hard to wrap my mind around.
Now, we're talking Notre Dame because they are a member of the ACC in every sport but football. I don't think we're too anxious to claim their football program right now after that. But I want to take a look at Notre Dame's schedule because, like, technically their season isn't over because they're number 18. Right. If they can win out, they don't have to play a conference championship game because they're not in a conference in football. Like, they could still get to the playoff. However, if you look at their schedule, I think I understand what Locked On Irish was saying, talking about the season being over. It's not literally true, but it's kind of true. And we have to get into, and we knew Tennessee was good. We understand that, the Wolfpack, they were underdogs for a reason against the Vols, but it shouldn't have played out that way. And I know Kenton knows that. We continue right here.
Do we have to talk about it?
We will also talk about Cal shocking Auburn, which was good. So we have some good to go along with the bad today. And we're only getting started. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Oh, and I'm only getting started with 5 Hour Energy. Oh, guys, I stay up very late to watch these college games. I stayed up late to watch the USC game last night, 2, 3 a.m. when I went to bed. I wake up by 7 in the morning. I am slamming 5 Hour Energy shots, and they taste great. And instead of crashing into that wall, I can jump right over that wall, like when Cam Ward hurdled over that defender for a rushing touchdown against Florida A&M. Had to throw my shout out there to the U. And guys, 5 Hour Energy, I'm telling you, it is so delicious. 0 sugar, a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. 5 Hour Energy website, they have flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and so much more. There's a flavor for everyone. And on the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On College Football. I know my guy Spencer spent a lot of time on this Notre Dame upset loss. He's also he's the host of Locked On Oregon Ducks, and Oregon they're winning, but they're looking incredibly shaky so far this season. Not looking so good. But Kenton, when we look at what Notre Dame, what they have left this year after losing, the team that should have been probably the easiest win on their schedule, Northern Illinois. They play on the road next at Purdue. They host Miami of Ohio. That should be a win. They host number 19 Louisville. Louisville's trending very well inside the ACC. That's not going to be, based on the way Notre Dame just played, that's not going to be easy. Maybe hosting Stanford will be a little easier for them, but again, they just lost to NIU. They play on the road at Georgia Tech. They play on the road against Navy. They host Florida State, which maybe that is an easy win now. They host Virginia, they play at Army, and they play at number 11 USC. And it's safe to say if they lose one more game, they're probably not finishing in playoff position, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think one more loss for this team firmly eliminates them from playoff contention. Yeah. As it stands right now, yes, NIU is a bad loss, but how do you keep out an 11-1 team, especially if they've got the eye candy, right? If if they dominate, if Riley Leonard gets it together, or if they go to Steve Angeli and he looks amazing, if they can put up points, if they can look good, if they can win convincingly, it's tough to keep out an 11-1 team with, the wins that you just named. It'll be tough to keep them out, because while nobody on that schedule is necessarily a world beater, again, there's a preponderance of evidence there to say, hold on, 11-1, you can say what you want about them, you got to let them in. Often like we've had to do in Notre Dame in the past. And even though they've got their heads kicked in the last few times, they played in New Year's Six Bowls, or they played in national championships, whatever the case may be. I'm not mad at letting Notre Dame in any of those times, because it's like they're undefeated. What else do you want from this team? So, their season isn't necessarily over, but I do understand the sentiment that, right now, through 2 games, you are on pace to throw exactly 0 touchdowns on the year. Oof. Not ideal. So, they have to get it figured out offensively, or else, our guy Woj is absolutely right. It is over.
All right. It's also over at the Duke's Mayo Classic, as number 14 Tennessee beat up number 24, formerly number 24 NC State, 51-10 the final score. Now, Kenton, we obviously knew the Vols were good, and there's a lot of justified hype behind Nico Iamaleava. It's the last time I'm going to attack. I think I nailed it, but that's the last time I'm going to try to stick the landing on that one. Nico and that offense, there's a lot of hype. That defensive line was fantastic. It seemed early on, Kenton, it was looking like NC State was making a few plays, could hang with them. I think the pick 6 that Grayson McCall threw, which was just a really poor decision on that jump pass that he tried to throw to Justin Jolie that was picked off and taken to the house. I think it was what were they down? I think 7 at that point, and that doubled their deficit. I think that was the turning point in the football game, and the wheels just came off after that.
That was a team that got knocked down and refused to get back up.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the interception. Donno, they were on their 15 after Justin Jolie had to make an amazing adjustment to make a catch on a ball that he shouldn't have had to, because he was open. But, that's where NC State's quarterback play is right now. So, on that play, they were at the 15-yard line. Let's get aggressive, Donno. How many points should your team score when they get the ball at the 15-yard line?
They should score 6, followed by an extra point for 7.
So we'll say 7.
Yeah.
Instead, it was a pick 6. Now, Donno, what's the point differential there?
-7.
You're looking at a 14-point swing, though, in total. From one side to the other, we're looking at a 14-point swing. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's multiply that by 2. 14 times 2 is how much, Donno?
28.
Now, last time I checked, NC State lost that game by more than 28, correct?
Yes.
So even if we give that play double credence and say, well, the momentum was gone, and the thises and the that's and the thirds, and that still does not, you did not get up off the mat.
Yeah, that's right.
You got punched in your face and curled in a ball. That is what NC State did. I'm embarrassed for that team. I'm embarrassed that once again, Doeren goes out and puts on this performance on a national stage. I'm embarrassed that many people in Wolfpack Nation are asking, what is Doeren in big games? And many more people already know the answer is there. This is who you are until you prove otherwise. I talked about a preponderance of evidence against first-year transfer quarterbacks. There's a preponderance of evidence against my former head coach, Dave Doeren. That's the honest to God truth.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking about this from a situation where I hate the man or whatever. Anybody who's seen this on public knows we're very good. That's my guy.
Yeah.
He every time he sees me, hey Gibbs, how you doing? Hey, I'm great, Coach D. How you doing?
Yeah.
But it's clear. I'm not going to put what I'm objectively seeing to the side because you offered me a scholarship. I did my job for the university, and the university gave me a scholarship. We did the transaction, even swap, no swindle. So going forward, I'm going to call it like I see it. And what I see is a team that is once again outplayed, outmanned, outclassed on a national stage.
And that was the tough thing about it. You know, you only get a certain amount of these opportunities, ACC versus SEC, ACC versus Big Ten, and these teams were both ranked. And obviously, the ACC was well represented this weekend by Cal. We'll talk about it, but that was an unranked matchup. It didn't have nearly the same eyeballs on the set as this one did. I mean, some of the team stats from this one, Kenton, only 104 passing yards for NC State compared to 211 from Tennessee, and the big one, just 39 rushing yards for the Wolfpack against 249. Now we did kind of know that it would be almost impossible to run against Tennessee. We knew that, but that's where you needed to throw for 250, 300, not 104. But then on the flip side, to get gashed for 249 on the ground for NC State's defense, that was ugly.
Congratulations, Donno. Congratulations. Do you know what I'm congratulating you for?
No clue.
If you are listening to this podcast, as a matter of fact, let me not just congratulate Donno. Congratulations to everybody listening to this podcast. If you're a Vol fan, if you're a State fan, if you're a UVA fan, looking for us to talk about the comeback in Calandria, if you're a Wake Forest fan, looking for us to talk about the collapse, if you're a Syracuse fan, looking for us to talk about you beat Georgia Tech, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, if you're an SMU fan, look at us to talk to you about not scoring against SMU.
I don't think the SMU fans want us to talk about their game very much.
Oh, don't worry, Donno. If you're a fan of one of the original ACC teams, or you're a fan of the latest edition of ACC teams, guess what all of us have in common, including me? We all rushed for more yards Saturday than NC State starting running back Jordan Waters.
That is true. And I appreciate the congratulations, because I worked hard for that.
You did. Everybody listening to this podcast put in the land work. You put in the work to get that accolade. Okay, yeah. So walk with pride knowing that you outrushed the starting ACC running back on this Saturday. You know, regardless of if you knocked back so many brews you had to be carried out of the tailgate, or if you sat at home quietly reading a book until your team played, guess what? You rushed for more yards than Jordan Waters. It was a pitiful display by the offensive line. It was a pitiful display of tackling, which we saw multiple times, a shovel pass get multiple first down conversions, because on each shovel pass that had happened, there were at least 2 missed tackles. What do you want your coordinators to do? They put you in position, and now we're looking at Grayson McCall throwing 2 interceptions that are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Yeah. What do you want your coordinators and coaches to do? At some point in time, the guys who put on the pads have to go perform. And time again, we're seeing open guys be missed by Grayson McCall. And if you're supposed to be Mr. On Time, on target, I'm concerned about you the same way I'm concerned about Florida State now. Because Florida State's strength is their Achilles heel. Grayson McCall's strength is looking like his Achilles heel. He has almost as many interceptions this year as he had in his best year at Coastal Carolina. And mind you, we're only through 2 games. So, very disappointing time. I honestly and truly, there have to be changes made to personnel. Hollywood Smothers has to be your running back 1. And if Grayson McCall continues to stink it up like this, put C.J. Bailey in, because I am a believer. Coach Thomas Wilcher taught me one thing that sticks with me for the rest of my life when it comes to football. If I'm going to lose, it's going to be with a new regime. I'm not going to have old guys making new guy mistakes. I'm going to let the new guy make that mistake so that when he's older, he will have learned from experience, as opposed to a 6-year guy trying to make a jump pass, both feet off the ground, lobbing it over a guy.
Awful.
What the hell are you doing?
Well, we're gonna go on a brighter note when we come back. Now, how about this? When we talk about starting running backs, if I had told you before the game that Jaydn Ott would have almost the same number of yards as he had carries in the game, you'd say Cal is probably going to get steamrolled by Auburn. Not this Saturday, my friends. Huge upset pulled off. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Oh, and folks, I'm nowhere near done with Ibotta. Guys, I'm getting cash back just for buying stuff that I'd be buying anyway. Ibotta is amazing. If you don't have Ibotta in your life, you have to change that pronto. It's still summertime, which, I mean, I guess technically it's not. I live in Florida. It's always summertime. It's barbecue season. Stock up on all your favorite grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can have them both. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 back per year. That's the average user. We can be above average. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. It's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta and using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, and start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONCollege. You'll be glad you did. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. I'm so proud of Cal, Kenton, and I know obviously I'm a Miami guy, but I support the conference. You're an NC State guy. We support the ACC, and I was watching that Cal upset win over Auburn. I was watching it in the press box at the Miami versus FAMU game, and I was waiting for that game to start, and I'm like, I tried to start an ACC chant. You're not supposed to cheer in the press box, and I'm cheering for the Bears. And that was despite the fact that Jaydn Ott, either, maybe Auburn had game planned really well for him, or he was still banged up. He got banged up last week, so he probably wasn't 100%. He only had 10 rushes for 11 yards on the day. But Javion Thomas had some huge gains, a 32-yarder, 8 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Fernando Mendoza played so well, so poised at quarterback for Cal, 25 for 36, 233, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And Cal's defense, they looked like the steel curtain or something out there. And I'm sure a lot of that was, Auburn hyping up Peyton Thorne to be the second coming of something, and he just wasn't in that game. Peyton Thorne, the Auburn quarterback, 14 for 27, 165 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, but credit to Cal for getting those takeaways and outplaying Auburn for the win.
You know what the problem was? Their base colors are too similar.
Right.
You saw that, Thorne was seeing, wait a minute, their numbers, they look a little like blue. I mean, they look a little dark blue. They look a little bit like the Navy we wear. Let me see if that's my guy. No, but seriously, big credit to Cal's secondary. I mean, Peyton Thorne was in a blender, baby. I mean, in that fourth quarter, it looked like he could not find the right color jersey. He could not find open Tigers. All it was Peyton Thorne was already a guy who came in from a little bit of an embattled situation, right? You're coming away from your coach being fired unceremoniously under some very, he's got a weird case circumstances going on there. But you come here to Auburn, and all of a sudden you're supposed to be the guy, and, everybody's giving Cal no shot. Hey, I'll be honest and say I didn't expect Cal to pull it off because I thought Auburn's on alert. Auburn's ready for him this year. Right. Lo and behold, Cal pulls it off. Lo and behold, Peyton Thorne cannot find. In the fourth quarter in particular, Peyton Thorne was determined to keep Cal in that game. In the fourth quarter in particular, I have rarely ever seen a guy be as determined to say, you know what? I don't want the ball. Here, you take it. I don't very much care for the ball, okay? I'm good on it. I'm not really interested. Not really my kind of thing. I'm good here. So with that being said, 3 fourth quarter turnovers are the story for Auburn. And by the way, those weren't turnovers where it's like Auburn did something wrong. Cal legitimately went and got all 3 of them, from the forced fumble to the 2 interceptions. Much love to the Golden Bears. Hey, we got to have Lawrence Ross back on here so he can talk his talk. I sent him a congratulations. That was like the first thing I did. I was like, how do I celebrate this Cal upset? I sent a tweet to Lawrence Ross was how I celebrated it. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, it must have been a lot of boss man D-Lo playing in that Cal locker room afterwards, because them boys are feeling like the biggest and the realest walking out of Jordan here.
Yeah. All right. Real quick. The new AP top 25. Let's take a look at where the ACC ranks in there. We do have a new ACC member on the poll. So at number 25, Northern Illinois. They deserve it to be ranked now after beating Notre Dame. Boston College from the ACC. They get to the number 24 spot. They beat. They beat the brakes off of Duquesne, an FCS opponent, but they did exactly what they should do. 56-0, I think, was the final score. They shut them out. Obviously, they beat Florida State the week prior. So Boston College, welcome to the top 25. Nebraska gets into number 23. They did some pretty rude things to Colorado over the weekend. Clemson moves up 3 spots. They took care of business. And I got to tell you, we'll talk more about Clemson this week. This time around, it was Appalachian State, not Georgia, but against Appalachian State. Cade Klubnik had a great game, 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions. They put up 66 points, 66-20. They beat App State. So Clemson moves up 3 spots. Iowa State at 21, Arizona at 20. Louisville moves up 3 spots to number 19. Notre Dame, they fall 13 spots. I think they should have fallen out of it completely. They fall to number 18. Michigan, they got their breaks beaten off by Texas. They fell from number 10 to number 17. LSU moves up to number 16. Oklahoma at 15. Kansas State 14. Oklahoma State at 13. Utah at 12. USC at 11. Miami in the top 10 now. Obviously not a game that was in doubt, but Cam Ward had another gem in a 59-6 win over Florida A&M, who won the FBC or the HBCU championship last year. Oregon falls down to number 9. Penn State stays at number 8. Tennessee rises up to number 7. Mizzou at 6. Ole Miss at 5. Bama at 4. They were pushed by USF for about 3 quarters before pulling away. Ohio
3.5 quarters.
3.5. Yeah, you're right. Ohio State drops 1 spot to number 3. Texas moves up to number 2, and Georgia stands pat at number 1. Anything in those rankings outside of the fact that Notre Dame should not be ranked, in my opinion, and I think in yours as well? Anything else stand out there?
Everything looks right there. You know me, Donno. I'm a big proponent of we shouldn't even have rankings until week 4.
Yeah.
Because until that point, it's all speculation and hopes and dreams, and this a Weezer, it's a Waz, it's a Fugazi, it's a Fugazi. It's fairy dust. None of it exists. So, all in all, I say through the first 2-3 weeks of gameplay, that seems about right to me, with the exception of Notre Dame, of course.
Yeah, no, well said. So it's going to be a busy week coming up. We will talk more about Cal's upset over Auburn. We will talk more about Clemson this week, who their stock seems to be going back up after that awful offensive performance week 1. Week 2 looked a lot better for them. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes, and we'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.